somebody was going to die. Yeah, I mean, that's just the way it was. But there's a third angel that's named. And his name is Lucifer, the devil himself. I found it interesting to really think that there's only 3 angels named. One is the devil himself. And that all that whole host of angelic beings, 1/3 followed him, while 2/3 stayed. It means nothing probably other than just a mathematical principle, but it still intrigues me pretty much. But we see Jesus made a little lower than the angel. Why? For the suffering of death. Whenever you go back to John chapter 14, and this is one the false teachers always come up with, they say that now Jesus himself said that the Father was greater than him. And Jesus did say that. We can't deny that, and nor should we deny that. But again, we found the answer in Hebrews. The declaration that Jesus was made a little lower than the angels for the suffering of death is the same answer to the reason Jesus said the Father is greater than I, and he was because in Jesus' humanity, he could die, where the Father will never die. You see, whenever you look at the Scriptures and you begin going through the Scriptures, this is something you need to make sure you're aware of. Whenever you're reading in Revelation chapter 1 and the false teachers come up to your house and they say, we're from the church of whatever they want to say, and they say, we're here to tell you something about God, they'll take you to places in the Scriptures that they have distorted. Very few, but still a few. But one of them, the Jehovah's Witness, will take you to Revelation 1, and you can take them there and you can begin talking to them, and you can say, okay, they're in chapter 1. It says here, I'm the Alpha, I'm the Omega, the beginning and the end. Who is this? And they'll say, well, it says right there, it's the Lord, Jehovah God, the one who is and was and who is to come, the Almighty. And you can say to them, oh, okay, well, what about up here where it says in verse 11, I am the Alpha, the Omega, the first and the last. He says, write these things in the book, sent to the 7 churches in Asia, to the churches, and then he names the churches. Who's that? And they'll say, well, that's Jehovah God. And then you can just continue with your great wisdom, and you can say, well, then who is this in verse 18 who says, I am he who lives and was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore? And you can look them squarely in the eye and say, when did God die? See, I know when my God died, he died on Calvary's cross. But though he was dead, yet he lived. Because the one on the throne never vacated the throne. And the glorious Son of God, who is God the Son, came, made a little lower than the angels, looking to the Father as greater than he, because he subjugated himself to death to redeem people just like me and you. This is what the angels want you to know. They're not to be worshipped. They're not to be looked at with adoration. They are only there to point you to the one who is to be worshipped and is the one who should be looked at with great adoration. Look with me in Matthew chapter 13. I want you to see some of the work the angels are going to do in our lives one day. Matthew chapter 13, Jesus has told the parable of the tares and wheat. And the disciples, they really didn't get it. They wanted understanding. So they said, will you teach us what you meant by this? And then Jesus began to teach. He began to teach them. Look over in verse 37 of Matthew chapter 13. It was here up in 36. Jesus sent the multitude away. All those who had been with him, his disciples were along with him. And they said, explain to us the parable of the tares and the wheat. The parable of the tares in the field. And he answered and said, he who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. Now I want you to make sure you understand that, because we've been called seed sowers, and we are. We've been called to go out and spread the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ. We've been called to go out and sow the seed that the gospel is. But please know this, it'll give you courage, and it'll give you hope, it'll give you conviction. Matter of fact, Tim made the announcement. I want to encourage you. Some of you don't ever come to Wednesday night. Okay, let me encourage you. Come to Wednesday night and go to Ron Puckett's class. It's just from 7 to 8, same time our prayer meeting is. Go in there and learn how to be a witness. Now, you don't have to commit yourself to anything for this church, but it will teach you in that class some verses that you need to know, with understanding of those verses that will help you go out into the world wherever it is, whether it's on our door-to-door visitation program, or whether it's sharing the gospel with somebody in your family, somebody at your workplace, or somebody down at the store. Wherever you go, it's a good place to learn. I want to invite you to come, because that's what we're doing. We're instruments in the hand of God going out to sow the seed that only God can sow. It's He who goes with us and He who sends us out ahead. The field we sow it in is the world. That means wherever you go. He says in verse 38, the good seeds are the sons of the kingdom, but the tares are the sons of the wicked one, those who follow the devil. And by the way, that's the only two classes of people in the whole world. See, you got to look at that. If you're not following God by trusting in Jesus Christ as your Savior, then you're following the devil. Now, people want a third option. They want to say, well, no, I've got this religion. There is no religious way that will get you to heaven. But every religious way on the face of the earth that is apart from Christianity will take you and usher you into hell, and that eternally. You say, well, you sound like you think all Buddhists are going to hell. I do. You say you sound like you think all Muslims are going to hell. I know all Muslims are going to hell. But I also know that all Buddhists and all Muslims can be saved if they'll trust in the one who's able and willing to save them. And that's Jesus. And there is no salvation or Savior apart from Him. That's what Jesus is telling them in this parable. He says, the enemy who sowed the tares is the devil himself. The harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are the angels. Now that's neat. Look there. The angels, they're the ones who's going to gather all those together at the end of the church age. Therefore, as the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so it will be at the end of this age, he says in verse 40. Verse 41 says, the Son of Man will send out His angels. Now notice that. What Jesus has just done was identify Himself as the one who has possession of these angels. He has just declared His deity. He has just declared His sovereignty. And He has just declared His ability. He says, the Son of Man, I will send my angels. See, He says it. His angels, the Son of Man, the one He had declared Himself to be, will send His own angels out, and they will gather out of His kingdom all things that offend and those who practice lawlessness, and will cast them into the furnace of fire. There will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. And the righteous will shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. Man, that's something we ought to say every time we preach. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. You need to listen to the gospel message. We need to respond to the gospel message. We need to fall in love with the gospel message. And we also need to be a people who proclaim the gospel message every day that we have opportunity. By our life, by our language, by all we do. Well, I want you to understand that angels are here to serve us. Again, the Bible is the document that declares them to be sent for those who will inherit salvation. That's us. That's the redeemed. That's the born again. We have angels all around us. Now, don't go home trying to find them. I'm really worried about all these people that write all these books and give all these accounts about all the times they've sat down and talked with angels. Let me tell you what happens in the Bible when an angel appears. People freak out. They don't make coffee and invite them into the living room. They faint dead away. That's what they do. You don't stand in the presence of angels and discuss the baseball game last night with them. You don't do that. They don't care about the baseball game. They don't care, and I find this hard to believe, they don't even care about football. Maybe they've never watched it enough. I don't know. But I've got an idea of why they don't care anything about baseball, why they don't care anything about football, why they don't care anything about anything other than doing God's will. See, that's where we ought to get more acclimated to that glorious understanding that the happiest place in our life will always be that place where we find ourselves in the very middle of the will of God for us in all things. You've got to be careful with angels. That's why I say St. Michael, he would not like that because he knows he's not a saint. He's an angel, a servant of the Most High God sent to minister to those who are heirs of salvation. But angels are tricky because you've got to remember that not all angels are good angels. Again, we refer to Revelation chapter 12, verse 4, where it says that 1/3 of those that were in heaven, the stars of heaven, it says, were caught up in the tail of the old serpent, were cast down to the earth. We believe, most people believe, most theologians believe, and I believe that's a statement regarding those who followed Lucifer in his rebellion against God. And Lucifer said in Isaiah chapter 14, I will, I will, I will, I will, I will. 5 times he said, I will. And then God said, not in my lifetime you won't. Well, you'll get that after a while, and it's really pretty good. But the bottom line is, no, Satan, you won't, because you can't. See, Satan's desire, now hear this, Satan's desire wasn't to overthrow God. It was to be like God. And friends, nobody can be like God, because God is alone in His work, in His way, and in His power. Well, you just got to make sure you remember that angels have a particular place, and you don't elevate them beyond that place. As we go through Revelation, I mean, you're going to see a lot of times when angels are involved in the activities of humanity. It's the angels. It's the angels who are doing things as the seals are broken. It's the angels who are doing glorious things as the trumpets are blown. It's the angels who, with the seventh trumpet, begin to take the seven vials of the wrath of God and begin to pour them out on the